I get that people are angry and I get that people are upset.
But you're not going to change the rules.
I think that the transparency is there so people can see.
Members of the Labour Party have been exposed again for their stupid actions. They constantly get into big scandals, and after that we learn even more bad things about them. They are destroying our country, deteriorating it every day at a catastrophic pace. Let's find out what happened.
You'd expect a conference like this after the majority that Keir Starmer got to be an absolutely sort of popping champagne cork sort of occasion. And in the hall, you get the euphoria, the standing ovations. But come away from the hall, talk to senior figures in the party, and there is a miserable mood. They're fed up that the media machine at the top of the party has not corrected, as they see, sort of false equivalent stories that are out there comparing the sort of freebies that maybe senior figures in the Labour Party have been having with previous scandals of a bygone era. They feel generally that the messaging that they're being given to explain to people what Labour is about in government, one cabinet minister described it to me as a hideous word.
Patrick Christys has criticised 9 Labour MPs and accused them of rigging as they became champions for the Age UK charity. Despite claims that they are protecting the interests of pensioners in their district, they voted to reduce fuel allowances in winter. The government voted for winter fuel payments to be provided on a need-based basis, which means that many pensioners are likely to find it difficult to survive this winter. Since then, Age UK has launched a petition to save winter fuel payments for pensioners. Barry Gardiner from Brent West, Margaret Mullane from Dagenham and Rainham, Frank McNally from Coatbridge and Bellshill, Olivia Blake from Sheffield Hallam, Sarah Champion from Rotherham and Fabian Hamilton from North East Leeds and others voted for thousands of vulnerable pensioners to freeze to death this winter. They voted to condemn people aged 80 and 90 to a painful death this winter. They are trying to remove this shameful stain from themselves by becoming champions of Age UK.
Blancmange. There is gloom about what's happening there, and there is gloom about the way that the universality of the winter fuel allowance was removed. And that has made for a fairly sort of awkward start.
Keir Starmer has won a parliamentary vote on a controversial decision to cut payments that help millions of pensioners pay winter heating bills. This decision to cancel the winter fuel allowance is allegedly necessary due to the dire state of public finances left by the previous Conservative government. Labour's large majority in the House of Commons meant that the government easily voted against the attempt to reverse the cuts. The Conservatives accused the Labour Party of punishing vulnerable older people. It is expected that this reduction will lead to a reduction in the number of pensioners receiving winter fuel allowance from 11.4 million to 1.5 million. The government claims that pensioners will live better even with cuts, as the state pension is due to rise by £460 next year.
I get that people are angry and I get that people are upset.
But you're not going to change the rules.
I think that the transparency is there so people can see that.
Delegates in the hall were determined to cheer up their deputy leader with a welcome that brought a deep intake of breath.
Thank you. I'll try not to get too emotional, but...
Party apparatchiks have modified what they acknowledge may have sounded like a gloomy message about tough times ahead.
Angela Rayner defended the government amid a scandal over donations. Asked about the decision made by her and her cabinet colleagues to accept thousands of pounds worth of clothes, hospitality and gifts, she said MPs had been accepting gifts and donations for years. All MPs do this. Gifts and donations have been an important factor in our political life for some time. Then, as usual, she started saying that she came from the working class, and in order to become deputy leader, in order to get this position, she had to accept donations for this campaign, because it is a very expensive way of conducting politics. She accepted donations for clothes in the amount of £2,230. She said she understands why people are angry, but added that donations are a feature of their policy.
There was one story that didn't quite make it into the front pages that broke in about the last hour. Donald Trump's campaign team have accused the Labour Party of blatant election interference, and this follows the story that Labour were going to send almost 100 current Labour MPs, working currently for us as MPs, to go over to the US and influence the election.
Yeah, apparently. I don't know whether it's been done before or not. I mean, it's not the Labour Party as such, is it? It's members of the party going over. It feels wrong to me. It feels like that could backfire horribly if Trump gets in, and then it's kind of embarrassing that we've got a government in that was going out of its way, working to stop him getting in.
Donald Trump's headquarters sent a document to the Federal Election Commission accusing Labour of interfering in the American elections. About 100 current and former Labour Party workers traveled to the United States to participate in Kamala Harris' election campaign. It will look especially stupid if Trump wins. Our government insisted that the party's activists voluntarily work in the United States on a personal basis and that their assistance does not reflect the position of official London. The Labour Party has not yet commented on what is happening.
Yes, sewage action at last. So toothless water watchdog faces axe in new Labour plan. Of course, the eye here is talking about Ofwat, and the reason they're talking in this taking ownership with this type of language is because they've campaigned heavily for this. You know, basically water companies making huge profits have been pumping really bad water into clean waterways, and it's an utter disgrace. I don't think this isn't a party political thing at all. I think we should all be worried about what's being pumped into clean waterways, and it's about time that something was done about it. And Ofwat have just sat back and allowed this to happen, and water companies have just continued doing it because they're not getting told off or punished in any way because they're doing it.
The debt-ridden, leaky, water-polluting industry, owned mainly by foreign investment companies, private investment and pension funds, has not received adequate financing for decades and dumped untreated wastewater into rivers. The party leadership does not want to nationalize the water supply, arguing that it will cost taxpayers tens of billions of pounds. But some representatives of the Labour Party actively advocated nationalisation. England is the only country in the world where the water supply system has been completely privatised. There are rumours that Labour is planning to review the work of regulators and possibly abolish Ofwat and replace it with a new, stronger body. How much of this cost will the Labour government allow taxpayers and consumers to bear, rather than shareholders?
The same thing. I don't know if Labour or any of their grassroots people understand the duplicitous nature of in the way they're going around their business, because the first 100 days has been utterly ridiculous.
OK, shall we have a look at tomorrow's front pages? Let's start with the Express, please, Kerry.
Let's start with the Express, which big up to Keir for letting me out early. This is prisoners celebrating their early releases. I believe we've had 1,100 released, which is... Is that not right?
You know, it's brilliant. It's just hilarious.
I said it was.
No, not even the way you said
it. It's not a humorous subject,
but it is ridiculous.
Very serious.
Starmer said he shared the public's anger, but argued that if the government had not intervened, paralysis would have set in. Beaming with joy. The prisoners were greeted with hugs and kisses as they left Manchester prison and fell into the arms of their friends and relatives after being released under the government's early release program. When one man came out, a group of 9 women and children rushed to meet him, hugged him right at the steel doors, and then all left together. Later, another woman threw herself into the man's arms as he was leaving the prison. One ex-prisoner, beaming with joy when he walked out the gate and was greeted by friends, said that he had been released 7 months ahead of schedule. Another man said he was also released early after 5 years in prison. He shouted that people were being beaten in prison, corruption and brutality were rampant there. But Starmer once again justified himself, saying that he had no choice but to act.
Can we please have a look at the Metro, Paul?
We can. Gangsters' 10k price on gun cop. So this is referring to the fact that this police officer, who has been acquitted this week, now, along with all sorts of other things hanging over him, has a price over his head from gangsters, basically offering £10,000 to have him finished off. Now, if we didn't understand just how difficult it was to be an armed police officer before now, we really ought to start treating this differently. We pursue these police officers like they're the bad guy on a regular basis. Largely, I think, thanks to TV programmes and the way they've been depicted, or the way their trials and tribulations.
Reports show that thousands of corrupt people with criminal tendencies are being recruited by the British police as a result of insufficiently thorough checks. When analysing the personal files of police officers, many cases were found where even those who had previously been associated with organised crime were admitted there. This cannot but cause alarm. What do you think about this video? I'm interested in your opinion. Share your thoughts in the comments. See you.